So what I'm going to talk about is taxes. Everybody loves taxes. So the story starts where my wife tells me, you need to be a little bit more involved in Philly. Now, I live in New Hope, born and raised in Philly, went to Washington High School. Chester Community Coalition is a nonprofit that helps children affected by gun violence in Chester. Right now, it takes them 30 minutes to get support. So one of my brothers from high school, Antonio, he does outreach there. So that's why I'm doing this for him. So she says, you got to get more involved. My wife says, you got to get more involved in Philly. So I said, okay, fine. What do you want me to do, honey? I'll do that. I try to avoid Philly as much as possible. I'm just going to let you know. I love Philly, but there's a lot of trauma in Philly for me. So for me, it was difficult. So she said, why don't you join the Asian American Chamber? And I was like, why would I join the Asian American Chamber? Well, I'm Indian, so she's like, you should probably join the Asian American Chamber, get a little bit more involved. They got their ass whooped because of the whole, basketball thing. And I said, sure, why not? I'll do that. So for some reason, they accepted me as a board member. And as soon as I join, a week later, the budget comes out. Now, I decided to join the policy group. I'm an economist. I went to a pretty good school. It took me about 7 years to graduate, but I ended up graduating from Penn. And when I looked at the numbers and I looked at everything, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But there was a little thing that said $100,000 exemption is going away. And I was like, what does that mean? Now, I haven't paid Philly taxes since 2015. We moved because of those taxes. So now I look at that and I said, okay, well, I need to figure this out. So then I ripped down the 2024 taxes that had the exemption, did it. Then I did it without the exemption. And then my heart dropped. Because I was like, wait, it took me 7 years to graduate from school. I probably still do know how to do math. And what the math is telling me, that if someone makes $50,000, or even a couple that makes $50,000, their taxes this April is going to go up $1,200. That's $100 a month. They're not making it. What's worse, the following year, it's going to go up $3,200. That's $270 a month. They're definitely not going to make it. So they're just not going to pay taxes. But then I thought about the immigrant. So I was raised by a single mom, immigrant. My father had passed away when I was 14 from leukemia. And I was thinking about her. I've been in that table where my mom's like, we're not making rent. And we would wait for someone from my temple to come by with an envelope. And every time somebody came from the temple, I'm like looking for that envelope, like, okay, maybe there's some money and cash in there. There's a lot of shame that comes with that. I remember my mom telling me you got to wait in the welfare line because back then you had to get food stamps, you had to wait. She used to make me wait. When the line got shorter, she would switch with me. So all that's coming back now. This is why I hate Philly, guys. No, I love Philly. I love Philly. It's my heart. But this is why Philly's tough for me sometimes. So then I'm like, all right, let me do the math again. And I kept doing it over and over and over again. And then I got up and I talked to my wife. I said, babe, I got to talk to you about something. And she was like, busy doing mom stuff. And I was like, no, I really need to talk to you. And I explained to her, and she's like, well, why don't you go tell the people at the Asian Chamber? I said, all right, I'll go tell the people at the Asian Chamber. And they were like, whoa, this is terrible. So then we reached out to the Greater Chamber, and we talked to the Greater Chamber, and then we said, you know what? We got to find a solution for this. So they said, well, why don't you go testify? So I go and testify in front of City Council. And I'm like, we're just going to have to cut taxes, everybody. That's the way. This is the only way we can fix this, is that if we cut taxes for everybody. Now, how do you think that went? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So now I'm thinking, all right, I'm listening. I give my little speech, and then Isaiah Thomas comes up behind me, and he says, I hope you guys understand what he's saying is that everybody's leaving Philly. All the creatives are leaving Philly, and that they're called sellouts when they talk about cutting taxes. But at that point, I knew that whatever I was thinking in my head, that we're going to just cut tax rebate, is not going to work. It's just not going to work. So I go back home. My wife's an attorney. She's an affordable housing attorney. She's a very, very good attorney, very smart. And I asked her, honey, what are we going to do? And she's like, well, what's the problem? I go, we have a legal issue here. You're a lawyer. What the fuck is a uniformity clause? And she's like, I don't fucking know. It's like, you need to talk to a tax attorney. And I'm like, all right, so I'm Indian. So I'm like, listen, who's the smartest Indian attorney that we fucking know in Philadelphia? And she's like, call Stradley, Dean Krishna. So I called Dean Krishna up. I'm like, Dean, you're Indian, I'm Indian. Bro, if we don't fix this shit, you know our mamas are gonna be really, really pissed off that they spend all that money to send us to these good schools and we can't fix this problem? And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? There's no way we can fix this problem. This is way over my head. So he's like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call all the best attorneys in Philadelphia. So Dean Krishna calls all the best attorneys in Philadelphia. We have the Greater Chamber, the Asian Chamber. Dean is running this meeting. And as we're going through, each attorney is talking about why there's no solution. Ballard, this guy, Chris Jones. I'm pretty sure you guys don't know who Chris Jones is, but you will one day have to thank this man for really making a difference in Philadelphia. Because he said we could do something. We can do a carve-out for the individual, the sole proprietor, the Uber driver, the 1099, my mom, the single mom, who there was no way that she would have understood how to handle this. She would have gone to the 15-year-old kid and be like, figure this out. And that 15-year-old kid, when he sees mom struggling, I can tell you what they do. They go out there and they go try to find that money in the worst ways possible. So for me, it was, at that point, I realized that I'm gonna have to call my business partners up and let them know that I'm gonna be a little bit distracted for a little bit. So I reached out to Harity, Councilman Harity, Jimmy, and I asked him for help, and he gave me a list of every single legislative aide in our city council. He's like, email them all. So that's what I started to do. I started emailing all of them. And I just want to say something. The mayor of Philadelphia is always saying one Philly. One Philly. And I'm like, that's some corny stuff. She puts her finger up, she says one Philly. I'm gonna let you know something. She's right. I am a believer now. Because what I saw from our city council, what I saw from the technical teams that actually run the city, they got to work. They got to work. And what I'm asking for all of you to do, the next time you're thinking negative about the mayor or the city council, remember the pressure these people are under. Because if we don't find a solution for this, they're all gonna leave. Families are going to suffer. And I'm talking working with Kendra Brooks' office, working with Driscoll's office, working with Squilla's office, working with Harity's office, working with Gilmore Richardson's office, working with every single one of those that I could at least get in touch with. They helped out. And they came together and they found a solution. And today, I just got confirmation that Councilman Johnson is going to be supportive of us creating a carve-out for individuals and sole proprietors. And Alex Hillman back there, you know, he was in my head too, telling me like, well, this is how, you know, and I'm like, okay, let's do that shit. So what I'm asking from all of you now, one of the first things I did when I went and talked in front of city council, you got to give like a, you know, what your testimony is going to be. And in the back of the testimony, I had wrote that the tragedy of life is often not in our failure, but in our complacency. Benjamin Mays. This is the architect of our civil rights movement. What happens to us is that we get attached to fear, the fear of failure, we get attached to uncertainty, and we get attached to doubt. The only thing that got us through to where we have a shot in Driscoll introducing something in January is that we were not afraid of failure. Instead of uncertainty, we focused on hope. And instead of doubt, we had faith in God. And with God's grace, everything is possible. So what I'm asking for all of you to do, this is for me to ask you to be brave. Be brave. Reach out to Driscoll. Reach out to your councilman and say, please, we support you. We love you for your efforts. And please introduce that bill in January. And then if you have any stake in the welfare of this city, testify. Just testify. Or at least show up when they set up the hearing. Thank you very much. God bless.